They say the fool is the lowest of all, the ignorant, the ridiculous, the one who stumbles while others walk with grace. Society dismisses fools as simple-minded, as comic relief, as those too lost in their own absurdity to be taken seriously. And yet, history tells us something entirely different. In the grand courts of kings, where every word was measured, every gesture scrutinized, who was the only one permitted to speak the unfiltered truth? The jester. In myths and legends, who is the character that bends reality, exposing hypocrisy with a grin? The trickster. And in stories both ancient and modern, who do we return to time and time again as a symbol of chaos and insight? The joker. Why is it that those who seem the most foolish often see reality the clearest? Why does wisdom wear a painted smile? Today we unravel the mystery of the fool, and why, in a world built on illusion, only those who embrace absurdity can truly understand the truth. To understand the wisdom of the fool, we have to go back to the courts of medieval Europe, where kings ruled with absolute power, in a place where speaking the wrong truth could mean exile, torture, or death. The jester was untouchable, dressed in bright colors, playing the part of a buffoon. The fool was the only one who could mock the king without fear. Why? Because in pretending to be foolish, he became disarming. He was not a threat, just a clown, a joke, something to be laughed at. But hidden in his humor was something dangerous: honesty. The fool could say what no one else dared to say. He could expose hypocrisy, challenge authority, and force even the most powerful rulers to see their own flaws. The king would listen, laugh, and move on. But the seed of truth had been planted. And this pattern isn't unique to European courts. In African, Native American, and Asian traditions, similar figures appear. Tricksters who, through riddles, humor, and deception, reveal what others refuse to see. The fool is not just a character, he is a role, a necessity in any society where truth is suppressed. Beyond the jester, look at the wandering fools of literature, the Shakespearean fools, the Zen monks who spoke in riddles, the village idiots who often held deeper wisdom than the scholars. Across cultures, these figures have persisted, not because they were unintelligent, but because they represented the overlooked truths of the world. There is a fine line between genius and madness. In fact, many of history's greatest thinkers, artists, and philosophers were considered insane in their time. Why? Because they saw the world differently. The fool, the madman, the outsider, they are not constrained by the same illusions that hold the rest of us captive. While society follows rigid norms, these individuals see beyond them. And because their perspective doesn't fit within the accepted reality, they are dismissed as crazy. But is it truly madness to see what others ignore? Or is it simply the price of seeing too clearly? Take figures like Friedrich Nietzsche, who challenged conventional morality and was considered unhinged by many. Or, even more extreme, people labeled insane for questioning the status quo, only to be proven right generations later. Galileo was called a lunatic for saying the earth revolved around the sun. Socrates was sentenced to death for corrupting the youth with inconvenient truths. Madness, it seems, is often just wisdom that arrives too early. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon. Those with unconventional perspectives are often alienated, not because they are wrong, but because they threaten the established order. The fool, then, is a necessary disruption, a force that breaks societal hypnosis and forces us to confront uncomfortable realities. The Joker archetype. Nowhere is this idea more powerful than in the archetype of the Joker. From mythology to modern pop culture, we see the same figure again and again. The trickster. Loki in Norse mythology, the coyote spirit in Native American legends, the fool in tarot, and of course the infamous Joker in comic books and films. What do they all have in common? They use chaos to expose hidden truths. They disrupt order not for the sake of destruction, but to reveal something deeper. The Joker in The Dark Knight burns money to prove that greed is a joke. Loki in myths deceives gods and men alike, revealing their arrogance. The coyote spirit plays tricks that, in the end, teach valuable lessons. The world views these figures as dangerous, unpredictable, even evil. But look closer. What they do is hold up a mirror, forcing us to confront what we would rather ignore. The trickster thrives on paradox. They are both villain and hero, chaotic yet wise, destructive yet enlightening. Their presence in stories reveals something deeply human, our resistance to uncomfortable truths, and our need for figures who force us to see them. If the fool is so wise, why act foolish? The answer is simple: survival and strategy. Sometimes the smartest person in the room is the one who appears the dumbest. By playing the fool, they are underestimated. They are not seen as a threat, and that gives them an advantage. Consider historical figures like Sun Tzu, who advised warriors to appear weak when you are strong, or modern examples of people who feign ignorance to gain insight into others. When people think you're clueless, they reveal more than they intend. When they dismiss you, they let their guard down. The fool is not foolish. The fool is watching, learning, waiting. And there is another layer to this. Fools make people feel comfortable. They are the ones who ask the questions that no one else dares to ask, the ones who challenge the rigid lines of hierarchy by pretending not to know any better. But in their simplicity lies brilliance. They dismantle systems of control by pretending not to see them. So what does all of this mean? That acting foolish is a shortcut to wisdom. That the most chaotic figures in history were actually the most enlightened. In some ways, yes. The paradox of foolishness is that those who embrace absurdity are often the ones who see the world the clearest. By rejecting conventional wisdom, they are free to explore ideas without fear. By laughing at life, they avoid the suffering that comes from taking it too seriously. And by appearing weak, they position themselves to become the strongest. That is why fools, tricksters, and madmen are often the true holders of wisdom. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they have escaped the illusions that bind the rest of us. The fool is more than just a disruptor. They are a necessary counterbalance to rigid systems. They bring unpredictability to an otherwise overly structured world. Without them, progress stagnates, ideas go unchallenged, and power consolidates unchecked. Comedy, satire, and even acts of defiance that seem reckless all serve this purpose. The most groundbreaking thinkers and revolutionaries were often labeled fools before they were recognized as visionaries. So, when society rejects a person as foolish, look again. Perhaps they are simply ahead of their time. So, the next time you see a fool laughing in the face of power, a trickster breaking the rules, or a so-called madman saying things no one else dares to say, ask yourself, who is truly wise? In a world where everyone plays by the same script, sometimes the only way to see the truth is to become the fool. Society may laugh at them, dismiss them, even fear them. But history has shown us, time and time again, the fool is no fool at all.